Hello, I'm Robert J. Sawyer, and this is Supernatural Investigator. The stories go back to the dawn of history. People who came close to death sometimes wake up speaking of dark tunnels, bright lights, voices, and glimpses of dearly departed loved ones. A peek, many believe, into an afterlife. What are people experiencing on death's doorstep? And can modern science help explain it? Even test for it? Our supernatural investigator is Dave Thaler, a man on a quest to understand his own otherworldly adventure, right now on Supernatural Investigator.
In Seattle, a woman gets rushed to the hospital, her heart stops. In Hawaii, a young girl gets swept out to sea and drowns. In Ontario, a man goes to bed for the very last time. Death happens everywhere, every day. The difference is, we came back to life, we came back with a story. My name's Dave Thaler. I work for a woman. She's a widower. She owns 116 acres on the farm. I'm a jack of all trades here, and I just make sure that she's comfortable and the farm gets taken care of. Horses, to me, are so in the moment. There's no past, there's no future. Horses are very connected to what I would consider the spiritual element of who we are as people. I was raised a God-fearing Christian. We've been programmed from children to believe this and to believe that, and it's like we walk around with little security blankets. And to me, the near-death experience was like somebody rips out your security blanket. It's like everything that you believe to be true is now no longer. It's like losing your foundation. Dave Thaler of the old died that day. It was a normal day. Decided to go to bed a little early, about 10 o'clock. After I went to bed, something happened. The next thing I remember, I was outside my body, looking down at my body lying on the bed. Just had this beautiful sense of freedom not being in that body, saying, oh, I'm finally away from that body. And then the next thing I realized is I'm being drawn up and now I'm outside my apartment. I'm feeling this incredible sense of peace and freedom. I'm looking around and everything has such a clear clarity to it. I'm realizing that wherever I focus my intent, that's where I go. I'm looking around and I see this beautiful oak tree, and I wonder what it's like to be an oak tree. And in that instant, I became the oak tree. To me, it seemed like I lived the life of that oak tree. And I see a blade of grass. So I said, I wonder what it's like to be a blade of grass. And in that instant, I became a blade of grass. And then I see a young couple on the park bench. And in that instant, you just get this clear and concise sense, being enmeshed in this pure love, that everything is as it's supposed to be. We are all connected. We are all here. We are all performing one function. We are all relying on each other. I'm getting higher and higher and higher, and I'm being raised up, and I get to a point where all of a sudden I feel like I'm going in, you can see the curvature of the earth. When I started to panic, all of a sudden there was this communication, and it said, it's okay, Dave, you can come home if you want. And I said, what do you mean? You're telling me that I died? I can't come home right now. I still have work to do down here. I still got my mom down on Mother Earth. And then I said, well, if I decide to come, what happened to me, right? And it was an instant communication back. Well, if you decide to come home, it will be found through autopsy that you died of a heart attack. And it said you have two choices. You can either continue on into your death cycle and come home, or you can return to your body. If you choose to go back to your body will heal very quickly, and there will be no adverse effects from the heart attack. And in that instant of that thought, I was back in my body. And it wasn't a gentle thing either. I was slammed. My roommate at the time comes screaming into my bedroom saying, "What's wrong, what's wrong?" And he called 911. They came. They were quite adamant about me going to the hospital. I refused. And I said, "I am not going to the hospital." So I said, "No, I'll be fine." And I was. After my experience, I spent 2 years searching different religions and different doctrines, and I could find nothing that could even remotely come close to the feeling and sensation that I had in my experience. And I tried Buddhism. I went to Hindu temple once. You know, I tried this. Nope, didn't feel like that. Tried that, didn't feel like that. You know, nothing could ever come close to what I was experiencing. What I was experiencing was the connection with everything. So I moved my search more from a religious search into a more scientific search. Well, today I'm off to the airport to fly to Louisiana to meet Dr. Jeffrey Long, and I'm pumped. He's the founder of the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation, and he's one of the leading near-death experience researchers in the world. He's read my experience, and he's agreed to meet with me.
I have studied thousands of near-death experiences. I have studied them with the appropriate scholarly scrutiny of looking for consistency, looking for inconsistency, looking for patterns, looking for what near-death experience is telling us.
One of the first aspects of my experience that I'm trying to come to terms with is whether, you know, it's real or it wasn't real, because to me the experience felt so real. It's like living in normal life.
Your journey's been a journey that thousands of other people have taken. Near-death experiences have been reported as far back as 2,000 years ago at the time of Plato. All across the world, near-death experiences are strikingly similar. People are having a close brush with death and nearly die. They're so physically compromised that they're unconscious and may even be clinically dead. But at that time they're unconscious, amazingly, they have the experience part of near-death experience. Consciousness rises above the body, and typically from that vantage point over their physical body, they can see and often hear ongoing earthly events. Near-death experiencers may pass into or through a tunnel. Often at the end of the tunnel, there's a light that's described as a mystical, brilliant quality. Following that, there may be what's called a life review. They may see portions or even all of their prior life. They may encounter what's called a boundary, where they have to make that decision about whether they want to return to their earthly body or not. A basic scientific principle is that what is real is consistently observed. And I'm here to tell you that concept of a connection, unity of everyone and everything is overwhelmingly consistently observed in near-death experiences.
Well, you're making me feel a lot better. It was a great sense of relief to hear other people have experienced something similar to me. Because the near-death experience is such a personal thing, you tend to keep it to yourself. You tend not to tell anybody. You tend to basically try to come to terms with the experience on your own. So to hear that other experienced what I experienced was very comforting. Some experts believe that as many as 15 million Americans have had some kind of near-death experience. My research helped me track down Chloe from Texas, who agrees to meet and share her story.
I had what's called a near-death experience, but actually it was a death experience because I died. I drowned.
Can you tell me a little bit about your experience? Because I know that you also became...
I knew that we were all interconnected.
Yeah, you knew you...
Yeah. I was swimming with my sister off the north shore of Hawaii. I didn't pay attention. I looked in toward the shore, and my sister and I were both taken under. She was taken about a few hundred yards down the beach, and I was taken further out into the ocean. I heard a voice say to breathe, and I knew that if I took in air, that meant that I was going to die. And for some reason, I knew that everything was going to be okay. So I took in the water, and it hurt very, very badly. I just remember total darkness, total black. Once I was in the blackness, I realized I'm still alive. And that's when it just opened up. The ocean, I saw right through the ocean. I remember that it was very sparkly and it was very clear and it was amazingly beautiful. This is when I knew that this is all interconnected. Everything is interconnected. It was such an impactful event that it has defined my life. It's just who I am. You know, it always will be until the day I actually die again.
It's very hard now for me to relate to other people because I feel that connection that you do that nobody else feels.
It seems like they're missing out on something because they classify it as superstition. You know, and I find that very, very unfortunate. But I wish we would take it more seriously. I wish the scientific community would take it more seriously.
Chloe helped me realize I'm on the right path looking for verification of our near-death experiences. But many scientists remain skeptical. They think near-death experiences are the product of simple brain chemistry. There are a lot of theories abound right now about what exactly happens in a near-death state. Some people say that it's oxygen deprivation. Some people say it's drug-induced. Some people say it's the result of neurons firing in one last frenzy. Could all these amazing journeys out of the body simply be hallucinations in our dying brains? And if so, could they be replicated by science? I head to Sudbury, Ontario, to meet with neuroscientist Michael Persinger. His experiments are controversial, but he feels he can replicate what happens in the brain during a near-death experience.
First of all, you had a near-death experience, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Well, actually, in many respects, you are of significant importance to science, both your experience and you, because by looking at your brain, we'll be able to understand more about what the near-death experience is, and moreover, something significant to you. Today, we'll give you a chance to experience the unknown again, perhaps.
He took me downstairs, showed me the room, showed me where the experiment was going to be held.
This is the chamber where you'll be sitting.
Wow.
You'll be sitting right there. You'll be blindfolded.
Next thing I find, I'm sitting in the room and he's hooking me up and putting the electrodes in my head and stuff like that.
As a neuroscientist, I know that all experience is associated with brain activity.
Dr. Persinger believes that during a near-death experience, the separation between the right and left hemisphere of our brains is broken down, something he hopes to recreate with the help of electromagnets in his specially designed helmet.
Okay, so here we go. Just relax. What we do is use electromagnetic fields to imitate what happens in the near-death experience. At the correct synchronization, when the two hemispheres come together, you suddenly feel that other you. And the experience is you've left yourself, and you have, technically speaking. Dave? Yeah. Just relax, I'm coming in. Okay. You want to hit the lights there? Okay, just relax. See what we got here. So it says that you felt like you were somewhere else?
I felt like I was there, but I wasn't there. Mm-hmm. It was just a pure state of, like, nothingness. It was a fascinating experience. You know, I seemed to lose track of myself, and I lost track of time, and I lost track of everything. It was a total sense of peace, a total sense of, I wouldn't say it was anywhere remotely close to what I experienced in my near-death experience, but it was the beginning. There's lots of approaches and lots of ways of looking at the near-death experience scientifically, but if I can relate it to my own experience, I haven't found any sort of satisfactory explanation from the scientific community yet.
One of my favorite near-death experiences has been called Maria's Shoe, associated with an intensive care unit in a Seattle hospital. One of the patients coded, which means her heart stopped. But as part of that experience, that patient had a near-death experience. Her consciousness separated from her body, and from that vantage point, she described her own resuscitation efforts, and her point of consciousness went outside of the walls of the hospital, where she clearly saw and described a shoe sitting on the ledge of the hospital, outside of the window, outside of where she could have seen it. And remarkably, the exact description that that lady described of a shoe was exactly right. No way could this lady have known that unless she was actually seeing it with her own consciousness. Near-death experiences are, in a word, 2 words, medically inexplicable.
For those of us who have had a near-death experience, we don't need evidence that what we saw or felt was real, but many refuse to believe. Some even feel we are embellishing or making our stories up. Dr. Long has come up with an interesting idea that might help silence some of the skeptics.
If you were to do a lie detector test, that might be some evidence that we could then provide and share with the world and say, hey, this is unique because nobody's ever done this before. And certainly I think there's a lot of people that would be fascinated with what the results would be.
Well, after the meeting with Dr. Jeffrey Long, I thought long and hard about his idea about taking a polygraph test, and I've tracked down one of the top FBI polygraph experts, and he's agreed to meet with me, and we're going to do a polygraph test.
So, Mr. Thaler, you're here today to take a polygraph test. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. To be honest with you, I tell most people that come in and talk to me, if you tell me you're not a bit nervous, you probably ought to leave now because you're already lying to me, okay? So if you're a little bit nervous today about taking this polygraph test, please know it's completely normal. I worked for the FBI for 29 years. I spent my whole career in Washington, D.C. I ended up at headquarters and eventually as a unit chief in charge of the entire FBI's polygraph program. If you're here to tell the truth, that's the best news you can hear because you'll pass the test. On the other hand, David, if you're going to lie to me today, that's the worst news you can hear because I know what I'm doing. You're not going to find anybody any more qualified to run these tests. And if you're lying to me, you're going to fail the test today. You understand?
I do.
Okay. But what I'd like to do at this point is hook you up to the polygraph test, attach the components, and let's ask the questions and see if we can verify your story.
Sounds good.
The test is about to begin. Please remain still. Are you often called Dave?
Yes.
Are you 49 years of age?
Yes.
Regarding your near-death experience, do you intend to answer truthfully each question about that?
Yes.
Are you lying when you say you viewed your body from above?
No.
Are you lying when you say that you were in the upper atmosphere when you heard that communication?
No.
Are you making up that story about having an out-of-body experience?
No.
Okay, David, that concludes the collection of the polygraph charts. What I'm going to do now is remove the components from you, ask you if you'll step outside for about 5 minutes or so, give me a chance to evaluate the charts, and then I'll come get you when I'm ready. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
I don't make any decisions or opinions. When I hear somebody's story, I let the polygraph do its work. David, I've had an opportunity to look at the results of the test, and actually the polygraph itself has an algorithm that scores the charts as well. But anyway, I've taken a look at everything. It's been very interesting talking to you today, but based on the reactions to the questions that I ask you about this out-of-body experience, it's my professional opinion to tell you that I believe you're telling the truth.
Thank you.
Okay?
I feel validated. I know a lot of other people have a hard time understanding what I experienced, but I know at my core what I experienced, so the results to me are not surprising. I've had a good basic understanding and a good base to start my continual search. I've met the leading near-death experience researcher, Dr. Jeffrey Long. I've met one of the predominant neuroscientists in the world and experienced the God helmet. And I've met one of the best polygraph experts in the world. It's very important to grab life. Life is so short. I would tell the world that the near-death experience is a real experience. It's a profound, humbling experience to anybody that has one. It's when there's so many different elements and so many different qualities about ourselves that we need to explore.
Are near-death experiences a glimpse into another realm, or just a creation of our dying minds? Scientists believe they can explain near-death experiences rationally, but many of those who've had them are convinced they've had a real insight into life after death. We investigate, you decide. I'm Robert J. Sawyer. Thank you for joining us on Supernatural Investigator.